Hello, welcome to the Property Nomads podcast, episode 342, Tax and Knowledge, why a power team will help you to save a lot of cash. Now, this is a working example of something that happened recently to Aaron and myself on our first development deal that we successfully purchased with joint venture partners. And how we've come about that is through a long time of building up that network, building up your power team, and striking while the iron's hot. In terms of tax, in terms of knowledge, we've always said and we always maintained that having a tax advisor is critical for your tax planning situation. Reason for that is everyone's going to be in a different situation when it comes down to property. Maybe you are a sole trader, maybe you are a limited company, maybe you are registered in the UK, maybe you're registered in the Cayman Islands, for example. Maybe you've got multiple streams of income, not necessarily property income. Maybe you've got loads of different things going on. And if you're not planning these things properly and speaking to the right people, it can come back and bite you on the arse. In all our years of networking, we've heard, numerous examples of people that didn't know any better, i.e. they went into doing various development deals or purchases. They didn't take any tax advice and ended up spending a lot more on various taxes than they needed to do. And the example I'll give you is something that happened to us recently. So, as mentioned, we got our first development deal, that completed at the start of January. I'll be going in more depth into other various things that are going on in an episode moving further on down the line. But for now, this deal got done. But it was held up just before Christmas because there were stamp duty questions. The solicitors that we used, I'm not going to name names. In hindsight, they were not the best solicitors in the world. They were a bit slow and not ideal, not what we needed for this particular project. They had questions on the stamp duty. In a nutshell, mixed use unit, HMO, development and a flat as well. So you've got your C3, your C4 and MA class potentially as well. The purchase price £550,000, but the scenarios we were given by the tax advisors was that we'd been quoted £31,500 for stamp duty by the accountants. We looked at that and we thought that wasn't right. We thought that was a bit high. That's not what we had factored into our calculator. So we went to the tax advisors and told them what was going on, told them what the property was, what developments had gone on, what developments were going to take place. And we were told that there's a couple of scenarios here. For £550,000 purchase price, there were three potential ways in which to attack the tax. One, scenario A, was using a blend of a basic residential and higher rate residential stamp duty land tax as buying for a limited company, and that meant that the tax would be £31,500. This is what the accountants, this is what the solicitors had advised us. Now, because of the varying levels of construction work that may or may not have taken place before completion, it was possible that non-residential rates could be applied. And this is where I'm a bit out of my depth, but I'll do my best to explain this to you. So using the HMRC definition of a dwelling, and I air quote this, in the course of being constructed or adapted as a dwelling. So as long as the construction works have started, then it is possible that non-residential rate would apply. So again, the tax advisors sat down and worked this out, £550,000 purchase, doing what they need to do. So the total stamp duty land tax would be £17,000. So you can see already that's a difference of £14,500 just from getting this exploratory advice. Scenario C is something that we've used before and something that we hadn't quite thought about for this particular scenario. But again, this is the whole point of having tax planners. And scenario C involved multiple dwellings relief. Now, we would advise this is always a choice of the taxpayer, and it's looking at various, what's the definition of a dwelling, what's going on, how can we apply multi-dwelling relief to the particular building. Multi-dwelling relief is how many units are you purchasing? Are you purchasing them from the same buyer? If you do that, then upon purchase or just after purchase, however it works, I'm not 100% sure, you apply the dwellings relief, but based on the various values of the independent or the dwellings involved in the project. In this case, the HMO flat and the shop, effectively. Then you apply MDR, multi-dwelling relief, and then you work out how much stamp duty is owed using multiple dwellings relief, MDR. So again, £550,000 purchase. They worked out the commercial unit based on information that Aaron supplied them, and doing all their calculations, they worked out that the stamp duty would be about £7,000. £7,000, much better than £31,500. That is a saving of £24,500. So you can see that if we hadn't known any better and we weren't sure about this, then chances are we might have ended up, if we were that clueless, we might have ended up just paying the basic residential rate at £31,500. Chances are we would have twigged that, it's obviously a non-residential aspect of the building, so we would have looked at the non-residential aspect, and that would have been £17,000. So chances are we would have twigged onto that and we might have ended up paying £17,000. But because we've taken the time out to get the appropriate advice about the project, and we have invested in our tax accountant, our tax advisor, we've ended up paying £7,000 plus the tax advice as well. Call it maybe £1,500, £2,000, something along those lines. So £7,000 stamp duty, let's call it £2,000 for the advice just to make things clear. £9,000 total. If we would have ended up not knowing that or not taking the advice, we might have ended up paying £17,000. So we would have been overpaying by £8,000. Or if we were completely clueless and paid the residential rate, then we would have been liable for £31,500. Take the £9,000 off of that, then we would have overpaid by £22,500. That's a substantial difference to the project, and it would have meant that the project wasn't viable if we'd have gone down that route. So the point being that that's an example of something that's happened to us recently. It's a project we've got down on the south coast of England. We'll be doing an episode in due course about all the other things that we've got going on now we've stepped into the development world. So do look out for that episode. But the key thing here is that, as always, when you are dealing with property, you are dealing with your buy-to-lets or whatever aspect of property it is, you must have a great power team with you. And that is going to range from lettings agents, estate agents, property sourcing agents if you're going down that route, builders, insurance brokers, accountants, in this case tax accountant. That's the point of this episode, because you can save an awful lot of cash by having the right people around you, by surrounding yourself with knowledge and knowledgeable people, and then taking action on that knowledge. If we hadn't have done that, we might not have even done the deal, but we would have certainly paid a lot more stamp duty than we needed to. But thanks to having the right member of the team, we've been able to invest in that advice, and it has saved us a lot of cash as well. So really, really useful, very, very useful. What more can I say? If you haven't already got a tax advisor, please make sure that you do get one, especially when you're dealing with projects. They're very, very useful. They will undoubtedly save you quite a few pounds moving forward. That's a lesson that we've learned. Get yourself a tax advisor, get yourself a tax accountant, tap into their knowledge, and that is why having the right team, the right people on your team can really, really help you. Thank you. Hopefully you have found that useful. Next week's episode, we're going to be looking at why the UK property market is attractive right now. I know a few weeks ago there was an episode about, is property really doomed? And the answer in a nutshell is yes and no. Depends on what way you look at it. But there are many reasons why the UK property market is quite attractive at the moment. We'll be tapping into that on next Monday's episode. So stay tuned for that. As usual, please do like and subscribe to the podcast in your feeds. Share the Property Nomads podcast with other people as well. It really helps us. Thank you very much. Hasta luego.